Good morning, grade 5s, and welcome to another English lesson with me, Miss Kun. I hope that you slept well, that you are feeling like you're on top of the world, and you are ready to rock and roll this English session. How are all of you doing? I wish I could meet you all in person, but I'm very excited to be teaching you. And again, I think this is the coolest thing to be able to teach all of you. So I hope the weather is beautiful where you are. It is sunny here in Johannesburg. It is still a little bit chilly as we are getting further into winter, but the sun is gorgeous and it's nice and warm in the room that I'm in at the moment. So, are we ready to start our English lesson? Remember that if you've got any questions, email them to grade5@worksheetcloud.com. Okay, let's get started. So, boys and girls, what we are doing today is we are just going to practice our punctuation. In one of our previous videos, we had a look at our different punctuation marks, and just a refresher on what the different punctuation actually is, going through capital letters, exclamation marks, question marks, speech marks, full stops, and commas. Okay, and so today we are just going to do this whole session, we're just going to do an activity together. So you are going to need a piece of paper and a pencil and your full attention. So you need to focus. Make sure that you are sitting somewhere where you can concentrate, and let's get this lesson on the show. Let's get the lesson on the show. Let's get this lesson on the road. See, I'm confusing myself. Let's just start this lesson. Okay, so what we are doing today is I'm going to read you the story. It's a very famous fable called The Lion and the Mouse. It's a beautiful story because it's just got such a beautiful moral to this particular story. But I've done something to this particular fable, and what have I done? I have removed the punctuation. I've removed every punctuation from this particular story, and what we are going to do together is that we are going to punctuate each and every one of these paragraphs so that it makes sense, so that eventually we've got one fable and one story that when we read it from start to finish, it is a beautiful piece of writing with the appropriate full stops, capital letters, commas, exclamation marks, speech marks, question marks, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to read this fable once. You can see there's no full stops, which means technically I shouldn't be breathing because a full stop, remember, is there to give us a little bit of a pause. So I'm going to try and read it. Try and read as much as what I can without stopping. I'm probably going to have to breathe at some point. But I was a swimmer in school. I still swim. And so let's see. I believe in my lungs. Let's go, lungs. Right. The Lion and the Mouse. Once when a lion, the king of the jungle, was asleep, a little mouse began running up and down on him. This soon awakened the lion, who placed his huge paw on the mouse and opened his big jaws to swallow him. "Pardon, O king," cried the little mouse. "Forgive me this time. I shall never repeat it, and I shall never forget your kindness, and who knows, I may be able to do you a good turn one of these days." The lion was so tickled by the idea of the mouse being able to help him that he lifted his paw and let him go. Sometime later, a few hunters captured the lion and tied him to a tree. After that, they went in search of a wagon to take him to the zoo. Just then, the little mouse happened to pass by. On seeing the lion's plight, he ran up to him and gnawed away the ropes that bound him. "The king of the jungle, was I not right?" said the little mouse, very happy to help the lion. My goodness, I failed on that. So that was a tough one. I dare all of you, press pause and try and read this without any punctuation marks or any stopping or anything. It's a lot harder than what it looks, I can tell you that. Wow, I was rubbish. Okay, so I hope that just hearing me struggle and by taking a glance at this particular extract or this piece, it is vitally important to put punctuation. This particular story that is lacking punctuation marks, it gives a very different feel to the story. Firstly, I wasn't focused as I was reading, because there was a lot of reading and I was just trying to catch my breath. So if you were to ask me what I read in the first sentence, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. And so punctuation, and this is why I wanted to do this activity with all of you today, is so that you can fully understand and appreciate the use of punctuation in the English language. And I do think that it's taken for granted, because it is very easy to not put a full stop at the end of a sentence. But it does have an effect if you don't put that full stop in. So we are going to look at the very first paragraph, and you are then going to see and identify where the punctuation marks are. So I'm going to read the first paragraph again. This should go a little bit better because it's not as long. Right. Once when a lion, the king of the jungle, was asleep, a little mouse began running up and down on him. This soon awakened the lion, who placed his huge paw on the mouse and opened his big jaws to swallow him. Okay, so there in total in this first paragraph of the story, there are 9 punctuation errors. And remember all your different punctuation marks. I would like you to identify those 9 errors. And remember, it can be a capital letter that is missing. It can be a full stop, it can be a comma, it can be speech marks, it can be a question mark, and it can be an exclamation mark. So identify all of those 9, and then I'm going to reveal the answer. Let's go. Right, and so here is our answers, boys and girls. So if we start off, the most obvious and the very first mistake that we saw here is that it did not start with a capital letter. The word once is the start of our story, no capital letter. So there's my first mistake. Once when a lion, comma, the king of the jungle, comma. So that's sort of saying he is the king of the jungle. So once when a lion, comma, the king of the jungle, comma, was asleep, comma, a little mouse began running up and down on him, full stop. So do you see, remember that we have commas in between our different clauses. So once when a lion, comma, that's talking about a lion, king of the jungle, the king of the jungle, that's the second clause, comma, was asleep, he was sleeping, comma, a little mouse began running up and down on him, full stop. Okay, because that sentence is quite long already. Full stop. Starting the next sentence with a capital letter. So this has got a capital letter. This soon awakened the lion, comma, who placed his huge paw on the mouse, comma, and opened his big jaws to swallow him. Full stop. There's no question in here, so there's no question mark. There's no exclamation, so there's no exclamation mark. So we just end off with a full stop. Right. So there are our 9 punctuation corrections. On to the second paragraph. Right, it reads, "Pardon, O king," cried the little mouse. "Forgive me this time. I shall never repeat it, and I shall never forget your kindness. And who knows, I may be able to do you a good turn one of these days." Right, so already, if I just read this, there's no punctuation here, okay, which is quite obvious. But if I read this, "Pardon, O king," cried the little mouse. Already as I read that, I'm picturing somebody speaking. And there's a clue. There are 14 punctuation errors. And the clue that I'm giving you is that if I say, "Pardon, O king," cried the little mouse, that would be somebody speaking. So, it's your turn. Press pause and go. And the answers are as follows. So, pardon, capital letter, it's the start of a new paragraph. Not only that, it's the start of a brand new sentence. So, pardon has got a capital P. And pardon, comma, O king, exclamation mark. Pardon, O king. And the reason why we put an exclamation over here, because it says cried the little mouse. If it said the little mouse, there probably wouldn't be an exclamation. But if you cry something out, you are shouting with a bit of emotion or a bit of feeling. So pardon, comma, O king. And remember in speech marks, if we have a punctuation, always goes inside the speech mark. So we put the punctuation, then we close off the speech mark. Right, so speech mark, pardon, comma, O king, exclamation, speech mark. Okay, it can get a little bit tricky, but with practice, it does get better. Pardon, O king, cried the little mouse, full stop. Forgive me this time, full stop. I shall never repeat it, and I shall never forget your kindness, full stop. And who knows, comma, I may be able to do you a good turn one of these days, exclamation. So that whole part over there is all in, it's all a speech, because this is what this mouse is saying. He's saying this whole thing, pardon, O king, cried the little mouse. Forgive me this time, I shall never. And this mouse is busy speaking throughout. And so again, be reminded that with our exclamation mark, it goes inside just before the speech marks, and the speech marks go at the end. Right. Paragraph number 3. So this one is relatively easy. There are only 2 punctuation errors, and I am going to read it. The lion was so tickled by the idea of the mouse being able to help him that he lifted his paw and let him go. Right. So what would your very simple 2 punctuation errors be? I'm going to reveal in 3, 2, 1, and now. Okay. The lion, starting with the capital T, starting with the sentence, capital letter. The lion was so tickled by the idea of the mouse being able to help him that he lifted his paw and let him go. Full stop. So this is quite an easy one. The only punctuation that was missing was starting our sentence with the capital letter and ending our sentence with a full stop. Right. On to the next paragraph. So this paragraph over here, there are 7 punctuation mistakes. Can you identify all 7 mistakes? So as I read it, sometime later, a few hunters captured the lion and tied him to a tree. After that, they went in search of a wagon to take him to the zoo. Okay, 7 punctuation mistakes. See if you can identify them as I'm going to reveal the answer in 3, 2, right. Again, starting off with the capital letter, sometime later, comma, a few hunters captured the lion, comma, and tied him to a tree. So look at our clauses. Sometime later, comma, so that is, it's an adverb of time, giving me a sense of time. So sometime later, a few hunters captured the lion, comma, and tied him to a tree. So it's still talking about the lion, but it is showing a different, it is a different clause. So it's a different sort of subject. So the first subject was captured, obviously the adverb of time, your time period. My second clause was the hunters captured a lion. And the third clause, they then tied that lion to a tree. Right. Then there is a full stop, starting the new sentence with a capital letter. After that, they went in search of a wagon, comma, to take him to the zoo. So searching for a wagon is one clause, and then actually taking him to the zoo is a completely different clause. So after that, they went in search of a wagon to take him to the zoo. Right. And did you get all of them correct? I'm sure you did. Right. And the last paragraph. Just then the little mouse happened to pass by. On seeing the lion's plight, he ran up to him and gnawed away the ropes that bound him, the king of the jungle. Was I not right? Said the little mouse, very happy to help the lion. Sure, that was long. Right, here there are 11 punctuation errors. And again, the moment that I read a said the little mouse, immediately my first thought process is this. And they're not rabbit ears. Okay, so what would my 11 punctuation errors be? And I hope you are trying this on your own. Press pause, easy as that, and try to identify 11 mistakes and see if you can come up with all 11. 3, 2, 1, and go. Right, and the answers. So, starting with a capital letter, just then the little mouse happened to pass by, full stop. On capital letter, seeing the lion's plight, comma, he ran up to him and gnawed away the ropes that bound him, comma, the king of the jungle, full stop. Now, was I not right? Question mark. And remember, the question mark goes inside. So just before my second quotation mark is there. So was I not right? Question mark, quotation. Said the little mouse, comma, very happy to help the lion, full stop. Now, boys and girls, if I now read the story again with all the corrected punctuation that you and I have just done, it's going to sound a little bit different compared to what it sounded like when I first read the story. So now I'm going to read it again, paying particular attention to the punctuation marks. So let's go. And please read along with me as I go. Put a little bit of expression into it and just have fun. The Lion and the Mouse. Once when a lion, the king of the jungle, was asleep, a little mouse began running up and down on him. This soon awakened the lion, who placed his huge paw on the mouse and opened his big jaws to swallow him. "Pardon, O king!" cried the little mouse. "Forgive me this time. I shall never repeat it, and I shall never forget your kindness. And who knows, I may be able to do you a good turn one of these days." The lion was so tickled by the idea of the mouse being able to help him that he lifted his paw and let him go. Some time later, a few hunters captured the lion and tied him to a tree. After that, they went in search of a wagon to take him to the zoo. Just then, the little mouse happened to pass by. On seeing the lion's plight, he ran up to him and gnawed away the ropes that bound him, the king of the jungle. "Was I not right?" said the little mouse, very happy to help the lion. Do you see that just adding the punctuation, it gives a very different sense and a very different atmosphere to the story. You also now, you're able to, as you read it, and able to stop and pause and breathe, and you're also able to think about the story as you read it. And there is a beautiful moral, as I mentioned at the start of this video, with this particular story. And the moral of the story is small acts of kindness will be rewarded greatly. And so that is something that I'm going to end off today's lesson, is that remember that being kind costs nothing. Being kind to one another. And that's why I always say it, and I end off my lesson and I say be kind to one another. Because small acts of kindness, you get a tickle in your heart when you are kind to one another. And you sometimes think, I always do so many good things, but I never get anything in return. And so one day it'll come back to you, and just know that you will be greatly rewarded. So small acts of kindness, being kind to others, will eventually pay off, and your heart will be full and bursting at the seams. So, grade 5s, I hope that you have enjoyed today's lesson. And remember that if you did not get all the punctuation correct, or you didn't identify some in some of the paragraphs, it's okay. Go back and try it again. Read the sentences to yourself and just practice it. But I know that you've got it. So, until next time, Hakuna Matata. And remember, you've got it. Be kind to one another. Bye.